You can unmute yourself though. So welcome everyone. I'm glad we were able to get this working. So I'm hoping that everybody got the right link. I know that when we send them out, sometimes I don't know if they just get put on there and then sent so many times that it doesn't work anymore. But anyway, for you guys that don't know me, I'm Cindy Peterson. I'm the new branch broker at the Clearfield office, and I'm excited to be here with you guys. Just a little background. So this class, originally, I always had this where we would just sit down with people and we would do the class together. So I kind of had to put a PowerPoint together over the last couple of days so that we can kind of interlock this, so that we all know what we're doing and what's going on. So I'm hoping that with the slides that I have here, it makes a lot of sense to you. If you have questions, feel free to ask. You can at the end. The one problem we have with this, and I'm probably going to have to change this, is that we only have 40 minutes, and then we have to start a new Zoom, and so then everybody has to re-sign in again. So I'm going to probably
Cindy,
just go ahead and yes.
It popped up and said you are upgraded to unlimited minutes. On my screen, it said that about 5 minutes ago. So I don't know.
Did it? Well, mine said I could upgrade, but I had to do it quickly and pay for it. Is that true? I'm not sure.
I think it's done. Anyway, we better get going then.
Okay. All right. So what we'll do is I've got a timer set so that as soon as we reach that limit, we'll have to sign out. We'll take a break for a minute. Everybody can re-sign back in. So hopefully that works. Is everyone able to see me? Okay. I don't care about me actually. Can you see the screen? Okay. Hopefully you can. Okay, so we're going to get started. So this class was, like I said, originally I designed this kind of for newer agents to kind of walk them through all the steps. The problem that I'm sure all of you know is that people don't get a lot of training. They go to their school and then, you know, that's about all they get. So I tried to do this so it's based off of a couple things. I want new agents to understand where they can start and how to obtain listings, and I want experienced agents that have been to it, hopefully to give them a little bit of some new ideas and things that they can do a little bit differently, because we all know that the market's been kind of crazy, and it's been a seller's market, so there's very limited listings. And so when I first got my license, I was always told that if you wanted to last, you had to list, and I really truly believe that. Not to say that we don't want to work with buyers. Buyers, yeah, of course, are important because they're the ones going to buy the listing. However, buyers do take up a little bit more time. So hopefully today this will give you an idea, and you can actually do a little bit of both. So when we're talking about that, what are the benefits to working with buyers? These are just kind of some silly things, but you know what? They're really true. You know, it can be snowing outside. We can be, you know, in the middle of a hurricane somewhere, right? And the buyers still want to go look at listings. They want to still go look at those. Or sometimes the buyers can be, you know, a little choosy, which, you know, they want specific things with a home, and it's really hard to find it. So sometimes you're going out and you're showing, you know, several homes. Sometimes they buy, sometimes they don't, and sometimes they buy with somebody else. And so, you know, when you're comparing the two, when you're working with buyers, working with sellers, on both sides, it can be really, really trying. But just know that from what I've experienced anyway, and I'm sure a lot of you that have been in the business a while that have worked with sellers, is they definitely don't take up as much time as what the buyers do. So, and they're kind of the ones that once they sign with you, they're there. And so it's mostly just keeping them happy, and it's doing your job to make sure that their home gets sold. So I'm going to unmute for just a minute. Does anybody have anything to say? I want to make sure everybody can hear me okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Oh, good. Okay.
Okay.
So my microphone wasn't on. We're having people text me that are having trouble getting in because before did not work. So I've posted and I've had Victoria email everybody. So we may have more coming on.
Okay.
After we get going here.
Yeah, the most recent link that I sent out that Georgia should have been sending out to, that's the one they need to use. The problem is we have two. One's for later, one's for right now. So we won't have that problem.
Yeah,
in the future.
the link that Georgia sent out is the one that's not working. I've had texts too, Michelle, and I forwarded them your link, Cindy. So
Okay.
I have a few more that'll be joining us.
Okay, perfect.
Morning,
So
Don.
the benefits of working with sellers, you know, everybody's got their idea of what they like and what they don't like, and personality does make a difference. I am a true believer that you've got to be comfortable with what you're doing. However, the one thing about the sellers, you know, like it says on here, is that they're contractually obligated to work with you. So once they are working with you, they're kind of in that contract with you. Where buyers, of course, you know that, you know, you can be working with them, and even if they do have a buyer broker agreement, they sometimes can still go buy a for sale by owner or go work without you, and that's really frustrating sometimes. As the listing agent, you control your time better. And so the one thing that I want to do is instead of going through each one of these slides and going, you know, one by one, you obviously can all read what's on there, and you're welcome to take copies of these. But I think that the most important thing to think about when we're talking about working with listings is, with the market being as hot as it is, you are up against working with other agents that are maybe very good at cold calling, or they just, you know, they don't stop. I think that the most important thing to do is make sure that you're educated enough that you can educate your sellers. And I think that that's where a lot of people fail when it comes to listings. If you don't believe in what you're doing and you don't know what you're doing and you haven't educated yourself, obviously, it's really hard to try to sell what you don't know. And the most important thing, I think, is, you know, not everybody likes to make cold calls. I mean, nobody likes to be rejected ever on anything. However, there's other ways around that where I think that a lot of times we don't think outside the box. So I put this together hoping that maybe this will give everybody a few ideas on things that they can do a little bit different. But I do think that we have to be very careful not to be giving advice on things we don't know. The coronavirus has really got everybody kind of freaking out a little bit, and they should be worried about it, because we should be distancing and doing all those things. However, if we're trying to educate people on something we don't know that much about, I think that we could really hurt ourselves in this industry, and I think that we could actually put ourselves into some real trouble if things happen. So I'm not going to get into a lot of that today, because that's something that each broker needs to talk to their agents about in their office. However, we are all aware of the precautions that need to be taken. Right now, I still see listings coming in. I still see people putting their homes on the market, and I still see offers coming in from buyers. Whether they're going through homes or they're just writing up the offers with a due diligence that says that they have a time to actually go in and do their due diligence and inspections, even look at the home maybe down the road. So with that being said, I think now that the reason that I think that this is kind of an important time to really be thinking about listings is because when the market does change, and it will, this is just a hiccup for now, is we have to keep people calm, and we have to let them know that life will go on, and we have to continue to do what we're doing. Now's a good time for you guys to get prepared so that you can start talking with people and maybe get those listings lined up down the road. The most important thing, I think, is that we need to make sure that, sorry, I'm got to move a couple things. I got a lot of people coming into the room, and it's kind of dinging right in my face. The one thing on this that I really like is most people don't listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. And I think that that is the case with most people in general. We have to be really careful, and we have to show a lot of empathy for people. And so how do we do that? We do that by, when we're making what we would normally call a cold call. I don't call those a cold call. I call those a warm call. And so I'm going to continue on. Sorry, this is brand new to me, and I've never done one of these before live like this. So I could tell you that I'm a little bit nervous. But so our agenda that we have, and the forms that we have that are available to our company, is we have a lot of things in our library that we can use. But the one thing I found in there, I really like this, and I put this on here, is because what is our agenda? I think that we have to really think about what it is that we're after. I know that a lot of people shy away from listings because they feel like they're going to be up against a lot of other people. And, you know, that's true in most cases. However, I don't think they prepare before they go. And I think that hopefully this can help you guys to get in a different mindset so that when you're going out on these appointments, my suggestion would be is to prepare yourself ahead of time and get to know the property, the owner, you know, what the situation is, whether it's a for sale by owner, expired listings, you know, all those kind of things. But we'll go into a little bit more of that in a minute. But I think that when you introduce yourself and your company, you need to really look into who we are, what we represent. You need to discover what the needs are of your clients. You got to set pricing. You've got to understand the homeowners in that situation, the buyers, what they're looking for. And so understanding the process is more than just about making sure you have a listing packet put together so when you go out there that you have all the right documents. So I'm hoping that this will kind of give you a better idea of being prepared. And I'm always more than happy to sit down one-on-one with whoever has any questions. If you need to put together a presentation, I'm more than happy to help you with that. If you want to practice a presentation, we can do that too. This class was typically set up to go for 2 hours a week for about 4 weeks. So the beginning of this class will be ideas on where do we get the listings, how do we talk to the sellers, things like that. The next section of this, when we move on, each time we will go through forms. We will talk about the listing agreement, how to explain it, what it means, making sure that you're covering everything with your clients. So, of course, these are all the things that we need to know how to do: the staging and repairs and pricing and market plan, listing agreements, MLS, input forms, all those kind of things. But we have to know all the way to the end. And a lot of agents haven't gotten there because a lot of agents are new. And so this, to me, is the best place to start. So you can see on the screen that we've got several different ways that we can find listings. People sometimes get stuck because they only think for sale by owner or expired listings. There's notice of default, there's renters, there's expired listings, there's home for sale by owners, there's garage sales. There's just a number of ways that you can find people to list their home. You just have to, again, you have to get creative. So let's start out with the for sale by owner. If anybody has questions, unmute your mic and feel free to ask me a question. I muted everything so that I don't hear all the background noise. So I went in a few days ago on the 18th because I was a little bit concerned about how do I present this so that they understand that the market is still strong. So I went in and I pulled up on KSL. I did the for sale by owners, and I did it because I live in Roy. I did it within 10 miles of Roy. And when I did that, just for sale by owners that don't have an agent, I found 239 matching homes. That's just a 10-mile area around Roy. And so you can see on the little chart here where it's got all the different numbers, it's telling you how many listings there are in certain areas and things. So it's really interesting. If you have never done that, I like KSL.com or any of the for sale by owners because it gives me the opportunity to look and see who's actually wanting to sell their home. Sometimes they're expired listings, but if somebody is on there, it's because they want to sell their home. So now I'm not guessing at, trying to cold call people to say, hey, are you thinking about selling your home? So it's a great way to find information. So on here, sorry, I got to move this little screen over. Okay. This is one of the for sale by owners that I found on there when I did this. So they had been on there for 2 days on the 16th. You can see the information. You've got the address, the price, the contact number, and then of course the huge section where they want to put everything that they love about their home. I love this because they're doing the work for you. So before you even try to contact them, you know all the wonderful things they think about the home instead of the things that other people think about the home. And I think that's important, and I'll show you guys why here in a few minutes when we talk about writing ads. Hopefully we make it that far. So you can see that on here, they've got a 6-bedroom, 3.5-bath home, 2 kitchens, 2 family rooms, gas fireplaces. I mean, this house is really nice and it's in a great neighborhood. The property details, they've got them all broke down on here. So where do we go from there? Most people, in my opinion, when I've worked with them before, they say, there's a for sale by owner, I'm going to go call him, I'm going to stop by, I'm going to see if I can talk to him. Okay, so my take on it is this. Educate yourself about their property and find out everything you need to know before you even contact them. Does it take a little more time? Yes. But if you do the extra steps, then people realize when you go talk with them that you've done your homework. Will you get the listing always? Not necessarily, but you have to know what's going on with that home. So the first thing I would suggest is if you find a for sale by owner that you're wanting to get a hold of, always look through and make sure it doesn't say owner agent, because they do that a lot. Once you've got that on there, go to your MLS, which you can see on here. You're going to go into the tax data search. So we're going to go in and we're going to put the information in that we need to find that home. When you do that, there should be a link at the top. And I know all the MLSs are different, so it could be somewhere different. However, even just typing in the property tax ID number will pull this up. But the agent full report, when I clicked it, when I did the tax data, it had the link to the MLS. So I clicked on that link and found that this home had been listed and was expired. So the reason that's important to know now and not after I've already went and talked to the KSL.com for sale by owner is that I already know now that they had it on the MLS. I can see what they had listed it for in the beginning. You can see the list price at $430 and then they changed to $420. It was listed, if you can see the little arrow here, it was listed on the 4th of November. So I feel like I'm missing out maybe, as I don't know if people are trying to talk to me or not because it's dinging and I don't want to miss anybody. But like I said, please unmute your microphone if you need to ask me a question, because I can't hear anybody. And I hope that I'm not talking too fast, but we don't have a lot of time. So I put these little fingerprint up here at the top so you can see a couple of things. You can see it's expired, you can see the list date, and then if you go to the next page at the bottom, you can see that the first little mark shows that it was off the market on January 21st, and then it actually expired on February 4th. Those of you that don't work with the MLS a lot or look at the expired listings might not know by looking at that, but if you go back up, they listed it on the 4th of November and they took it off the market January 21st. It didn't expire till the 4th because that was the original list date. So always check to make sure that if it's off market, that you're checking to see what day it went off the market. You don't want to go in talking to them and you're thinking that it expired on the 4th because some reason, maybe the agent didn't do their job or whatever. That's not necessarily true. That's the date that the expiration date was originally on the MLS. So with that being said, let's go to this next one. So when we go in there, I'm sure everybody understands this, but if you haven't done a lot of deals, you don't know where to look. So there's obviously a lot in between here that we could do training on, but I'm trying to kind of skip to the parts that are really, really important that you need to remember to check. And so if for some reason you don't know how to get from point A to point B on the MLS and you have went through a class or whatever, please call me, call one of the brokers. They can walk you through the steps so that you know where to find the information you need. So when I clicked on here, obviously on the listing, when it was on there, I clicked on their history, and you can do history or you can do the check on and click on the tax data number, and that will tell you. So this tells me everything that has been done with that home as far back as I want to go. And so under that MLS number, it would only be certain things, but if you do a history with the tax data, then it will show everything in the past, even like from back to 2003 if it was on the MLS. But if you look on here, you can see at each time that something happened with it. So when you look on there, you can see on the 4th, that's when they actually listed the home, and then they priced it at $430 and went down to $425, and then $425 to $420, and then active and then off market. Make sure you're reading these because it's really important even when we start doing some expired listings and talking about them. This is the same way you're going to make sure that if it's showing an expired listing, that it's still expired. because if it's not, you'll see that it's back active again, and you definitely don't want to contact those people if it's back active. That means that they've already relisted or went with somebody else. So the next one is when you click on to get the property data information for the home. And I know that all the MLS systems are different, so they might be set up a little bit differently, but I just wanted to highlight on here the main points that if you were going to look it up to find out who the actual owners of the property are, of course, their status. So if it's husband and wife, joint tenant, you know, we have all these different types of tenancy that we can have on there. The next page, you can see that they've got their taxed amount, they've got the tax year, so you know how much the taxes were for that current year. It's got the acreage at the bottom. And again, I'm just going to run through these because these are the reports that you will find, but I'm going to use these so that we can actually do a CMA on this house. So year built, it's got 1994. So the tax records are showing number of bedrooms is 3, the bathrooms is 2, and then a partial. You can see that the roof covering, it says it's asbestos, which it's not. We all know it's not, but obviously that's an error on the county's side. The one thing I want to point out is that on the number of bedrooms and bathrooms that it's showing on the report, of course, sometimes these aren't quite up to date as what the county would be, but if you were checking on this, you can see that it's 3 bedroom and 2.5 bath. But on the listing, when we seen it, we know that it was, they listed it as a 6 bedroom, 3 bath. So not always, but most of the time, the reason you see that on the tax data is because they probably did not get any of their permits they were supposed to get when they were finishing their basement. And that's pretty common. You can see that. So you want to just make sure when you're talking with people, if they did finish that, you want to find out if they got the permits on the home or not. So that could be an issue down the road. The buyer may ask those questions. Okay, so the living area and the base area, you can see on here, they've got it listed. So it is a rambler with a basement. So we've got, you know, the 1848 square feet, and then we've got 1784 as the lower level. So I know this is kind of going quickly, but I just want to try to point out that there's a section for everything that you need to be looking at. I wish I could hear you guys because I would rather have you guys asking me questions. I feel like I'm going through this really quickly, and I don't want to lose anybody or make anybody think that.
Maybe we ought to take a pause for a minute. Does anybody have any questions for Cindy so far?
I don't. Nope, just listening.
Okay. I'm sorry if I get going too fast. It's hard. I feel like I'm talking to myself. So
Dawn and I are keeping track of the chat. So if we see that anybody has any questions, we'll just pop on for you, okay?
Oh, thank you so much. That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so when I pull this up, I wanted to point out a couple things that sometimes people don't realize that is on there. So when I pulled this up, I noticed that there's property transaction information on here, and you can see that the transaction type on this is a HELOC loan. I'm not going to go into detail about what that is because we would just go from one thing to another and be here all day. But just so you know, obviously there's a loan value at the bottom, and the date that they filed and they took this loan out was December 18th, 2019. And the loan due is February 16th, 2022. That caught my attention when I was looking at this because there's that one, and then there's also this one for 140. And that was back, the filing date was back in 2007. So it could have been paid off by now, but it was showing. So I just wanted to make sure because the loan due is not until 2022. So I'm assuming they probably still owe that. Again, there's another one for 62.8. So what we're doing is we're basically, you know, going to be the investigators here to say, okay, are they in a situation? It looks like they were pulling some money out on this one. That was in December when they were listing last year. So I'm not sure what they're pulling it out for. Not really any of my business. I just want to make you guys aware that when people say that they own a home free and clear, that's not necessarily the case, because if they've taken out any kind of loans on the home for equity, fixing up things or whatever, sometimes they don't tell you that at the beginning. So be very careful to make sure that when you're looking at this kind of stuff that you're noticing that. So I'm not sure how many of you have ever pulled an abstract of title from the title company before. I'm sure that most of you have, But I want you to be aware that if you haven't, because I know a lot of new agents don't know this, this is something that you can get from the title company that they will send to you. I actually had just emailed First American, Bonnie. I've always worked with her as far as getting information. The abstracted title, a lot of times you don't have to know how to read all of it, but it is helpful to look on here to see if maybe there is a notice of default, meaning that they are behind on their payments and maybe going into foreclosure. That's important to look for. It just changes the situation depending on where they're at. But again, this one here is showing, if you look through there, you can see all those deeds of trust that they took out for those amounts. Some of them, like I said, may have been paid off, maybe not. That's just something to be aware of. So with that being said, we'll get to more of the meats and potatoes of the kind of thing here that we're all interested in the most, I think. So when I do trainings with my agents, I always say to them, you know what, I have an S rule. It's a sold, six, same. Okay, so what that means is when we're comparing homes, we always want to make sure that we're comparing the exact type and style of home when we're doing a market analysis. I've seen a lot of people try to pull in a 2-story with a rambler, or sometimes they pull in a bungalow with a rambler. That doesn't necessarily always work. And we know that there's been a lot of homes sold in the past couple of years, and so there shouldn't be too much of a problem finding some of this information, but just be aware that sometimes people are having to go back a little further. The one thing I always steer clear of is the actives. If I absolutely have to put under contracts in, I do, but try to always do the solds if you can. So my S rule needs to be sold within the past 6 months, because that's what the appraisers are going to look at. They're going to want to know that it's been within the last 180 days. If it's not, sometimes they'll make exception if there's nothing, but as a general rule, stay within 6 months. Within 6 years of the year of build. So, basically don't go, 15 years newer and 15 years older. That's just too much of a difference. Again, there's always exceptions if you can't find something. You might have to have a cost analysis. I'm not sure. And then the 6 miles of the property. Sometimes you can't find, for instance, say you're listing a home in Roy, but it's on the border of Clinton, or one of those other areas where they're kind of a combined neighborhood, but yet there's a divider right there. Most of the time when I've worked with appraisers, they really want to see you stay within the same area zip code, but they know that that's not possible all the time, especially like in Hooper. So just if you can get it within that area, at least. If you have to go county, I guess go county. And then of course you want to stay within 600 to 800 square feet, either way, bigger or smaller, of the home that you're doing the market analysis on. And so this is just to kind of give you an idea. Again, when I did this, I'm trying to make this as simple as possible, because when I usually do this class, we do it like together online so that they can see exactly what we're doing. But since we needed to condense this quite a bit, I brought over the square footage of that home so we don't have to go back and forth. And so, of course, when we go in here, we're going to do a new search. This is how I do it. And honestly, I know there's probably better ways to do it, and there's other ways that are newer. I'm probably a little old school because I've been doing it the same way, but it's worked, and I've always been pretty close with my numbers. So I'm just sticking with what works for now. So if you have something else, great. If you want to tell me about it, I'd be happy to listen. The status, of course, like I said, you want to choose sold. So if you start out with the sold and then you go over to the number of days back, if you put in the 180 days over here, I just want you to know that it's going to go down to the expired date, and it's going to, for some reason they have it so it automatically puts it there. You need to get rid of that in order to put your 180 days. It's kind of a glitch that I think the MLS needs to fix. So we've got only about 5 more minutes, I think, until our class will be ending and we have to re-sign back on. So if that happens, hopefully everybody's got the second link. If not, I will send it to Georgia really quick and she will resend it out again to everybody. So when you go to the property type, of course, you're going to put the single family. We're over on the right side. The style, we're only going to compare to a Rambler or a ranch style home. The year built on this, of course, was 94. So I did 1980 to 2005 because I wasn't getting anything as it got closer to the year built. So I had to spread that out a bit. Again, I went down to the city and I did Roy, Hooper, and West Haven because there just wasn't a lot in the area, and those kind of surround that area. So square footage, 3,000 to 4,100 square feet, 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 2 car garage minimums. Are we doing okay? Is everybody, I only got 4 minutes before we have to sign out. Does anybody have questions at this point?
Hey, Cindy, just keep going. I think it's going to let you go.
Really? Okay. Okay.
Let it go.
I think the same thing. I think that you're good to go. So just keep going.
Okay. Okay. Well, if I lose you guys, we know what to do, right?
Okay, we do.
Okay. So when I put these in, obviously, I went off the number of the bedrooms and bathrooms over here minimum. So when we go to the next one, these are the homes that pulled up that I found that were comparable. You can see on here that I've got 5 homes. You don't always get 5 homes, but what I would say is try to get at least 3. If you get one that's extremely outside of the parameters of everything that we're trying to find on this home, most of the time, if I get a lot, I take out the high and the low. And so we can just, form somewhere in the middle. But you can see on this one, we've got 5. And so when that pulls over, that's going to pull over to this sheet. I hope everyone's following me okay. And I know that for newer agents, this is overwhelming. It's a lot of information. My hope is that when you see this, at least you can see it and a visual will help you understand a little bit better where we're coming from. So on here, your first column is going to be your subject property. So when you go into the subject property, you can actually go on the address and you can put the address in. You can even add a photo of the home if you wanted to. The most important, I think, is when you're going through here, you want to make sure that when you're putting your data in, so when you go down to the bedrooms, for instance, you put in 6 bedrooms. If you don't tab or click down below and you happen to mess with the number to the side of that, the $1,000, then it messes up everything. So when you're putting it in, just either tab or click down. So I'm not going to go in a lot of detail, but I do want people that don't understand to know that the reason that these numbers are the way they are, and you're comparing these so that when you're explaining it to your seller, you want to make sure that the bedrooms, when they go to the side, they're going to ask you maybe sometimes what this number is next to your property of the subject. So you've got 6 bedrooms. Basically, they get $1,000 for every bedroom. So if you've got a home next to that and it says 4 bedroom and then you see 2,000, the adjustment is saying we're going to make that home, these other homes, match our subject home. I know it's kind of confusing, but you kind of need to understand if somebody says, what if I finish a bedroom? Will that add much more value? You know what? Probably about $1,000. That's a good way to look at that if you're not really sure. Obviously, if they put more into it, it's going to be worth more, but that's pretty standard. The bathrooms, you want your full baths only to go there, your 3/4, and then your half. Again, make sure you're tabbing through those because a full bath is obviously worth about $5,000 more in value versus a half bath of $2,500. So when you go down, you're making sure that your square footage is in here. You can see that I went down to level 1. I put in 1848, and going back, if you was to look back at the MLS listing, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but when they listed it, they didn't even put the numbers in correctly. You want to make sure if you're not having it measured or an appraisal that you're going off of and you're going off the county record, go off the county record and what it is, and then let the buyer verify square footage if that's an issue and they don't believe it. They have the right to do that. So the basement square footage again is 1784, and so the basement said on there was 100% finished. So I based it off of that. A lot of people ask about square footage, the price per square foot. Honestly, I don't even go into that unless they want to know. It's right there. But as everyone knows right now, it's really not about that. It's about what the buyers want and what the seller's willing to sell it for and the buyer's willing to pay for it. So that's not necessarily an accurate number in my opinion. So When you go down to the year built, you've got 1994, you've got a 2-car garage, and then you put in your acreage as the 0.34. So now that we've got all the information on that home, on the subject home, it's going to give us what we have is, you know, the adjusted total. Oh, whoops, sorry, at the bottom. I've got to move a little thing here. So, okay, so you can see the adjusted price down there is $416. So what I tell people is when you're looking at these, and I think that a lot of people don't understand how to maybe explain exactly how it works. When their neighbor next door is listed on here and they're saying, well, yeah, but we sold our house for 430 or something like that. That may be true sometimes, but again, when you look at the list price versus the sold price, it also shows you at the top. If you're looking at the top on these other homes, it's going to show you the sell date. It's going to tell you how long it took continuous days on the market to sell. But it is also going to tell people that at the bottom, if there was any concessions paid. And that's really important to know, because if someone says they got a full price offer and it was, you know, $430,000, but they paid $6,000 in closing costs, they obviously didn't take a full price. They didn't get a full price offer. And that's important to explain when you're talking to the sellers, because nobody ever wants to pay the closing costs, but they don't understand that it's being borrowed in there. So you can see it down here at 416 that house, when it was listed, you know, they had dropped it down to like the 420, I believe. It probably wasn't far off, but we don't know the whole situation. So all we're going to do is go off the facts that we know. So when we go over to the cost to sell, this is, I think, the most important piece of information that when you're talking to a seller that you can give to them. I am really surprised sometimes when I find out how many agents don't do a net sheet. And when I've asked them if they do a net sheet, they say, you know, I don't even know what a net sheet is. So again, this is this information and the way that I've used it and done it in the past, and it's always seemed to work. And I've always been within, oh gosh, a couple $100. And I'm an overestimator, so I usually would put my numbers in a little bit higher, and then they end up being in a better situation. Obviously, you don't want to be doing a net sheet until you're actually sitting down to go over the listing with them, but a lot of people don't understand what they're supposed to be charging and what's going to be in there. So I just want to give you guys an idea. This is a spreadsheet that I put together a long time ago, and you're more than welcome to have it. I will forward it to anybody that wants to use it. You can set up your own. You can make it your own. Basically, every time I list a home, when I go out to show them a breakdown of the home, I will do based off of normally, you know, typically you do off, you know, what it came in at as far as the market analysis. In this case, I just went right off the 416. A lot of times you can go a little higher because, of course, people are making multiple offers and they're bumping that up. But again, we want to make sure that they understand that it has to appraise for that. So my spreadsheet is actually set up so that if I put in my sales price here, it will calculate for me title insurance, closing agent fees, document prep fees. I know some of these probably aren't even the correct terms for some of these things, but it makes more sense. And when it comes right down to it, it's just a matter of numbers and crunching the numbers together to know what is the seller going to pay. These are what we would consider the seller's closing costs. So when they don't think they have any costs, that's not true. And so for sell by owners, a lot of times don't even know this. What I did is I set this up so that it is about, the title insurance adds up to be about probably 0.65, maybe 6 or 5.5, depending on the price of home. The higher the price of the home, it seems like a little bit lower the title insurance is as far as percentage wise. But this is actually a good way to look at it to say, okay, let's break this down for the seller. Let's show them all the costs involved, all the way down to the, you know, FedEx, wire fees, whatever, you know, to pay off things. We want them to know what's all involved without even using our services so that they can look at the difference to see. So when you have those fees on there, brokerage fees, we're a brokerage that we decide what we want to set. We decide what we want to take. I base it off 6% because that's kind of the typical. So when I calculate these in here, I have this set up so that it takes whatever that sales price is and it times it by 5%, 6%, whatever it is that you decide to do. So you would need to adjust that if it wasn't going to be the 6%. What I like to do, I don't call them commissions. I call it a brokerage fee. And as long as you're disclosing what it is the seller is paying, you can call it whatever you want to. I've had people say, oh, you can't call it that, it's a commission. That's not true. I've checked into that. As long as you're disclosing what it is the fee that they're going to pay is, you can call it whatever you want to. But the brokerage fee to me doesn't sound like it's as negotiable as a commission. So I don't really spend a lot of time on brokerage fee when I'm going through, because I've already got it stated here. Now, if I've decided I was going to reduce that commission to something different, I would still leave the 6% over on the side where it says brokerage fee, 6%. And then I would change it over here to say reduce to 5. And then I would write in there savings of X amount of dollars. I think it's important that they see the difference. And so obviously it's gonna calculate however much you put in there. But I think that no matter what you do, if you spend a lot of time on brokerage fee, you're going to get caught up and hung up on that, and so are they. Later, as I do more classes, I will talk to you about how to handle those kind of objections. But for now, I'm just going to leave it there. Obviously, the first mortgage balance, if they have a mortgage balance on there, I just put some numbers in there based off of what I was seeing. The 361.8 is what I'm showing that these people, these particular people on this for sale by owner, when I pulled up the cost, you know, the loans, the HELOC loans and stuff, that's about what it came to. So I'm just estimating. Of course, if they had second mortgages or anything, you'd add that in. The prorated taxes, you're going to always take those taxes from the year that they were billed before. So that was 2019. I take that, divide it by the 12 months, and assume that maybe it'll take us till June to sell it if they were to list it today. So that would be the 1223.46 amount. You can see down at the bottom that's highlighted. Of course, that's if it's an escrow, that if they have their mortgage company that collects that in escrow, then they will actually end up getting that amount back, but they're going to charge it to him at closing, and they're going to credit it to the buyer. So just a FYI that if they are paying those in escrow, that's something upfront, but they will get that back. Typical buyer's concessions. So everyone does things differently. I like to upfront say, listen, this is a good possibility. We are probably going to get several offers because of the way that the market's been. However, there are going to be buyers that are going to need some closing costs that they need to borrow in their loan. A lot of times people explain, well, this is a seller that's going to pay these closing costs. You can kind of look at it any way you want to, but when it comes right down to it, whatever the buyer's willing to pay for the home, that's what they're borrowing. That's the amount they're paying. So if they raise the price to cover those closing costs and it still nets the seller the same amount without paying closing costs, it's kind of a win-win. I think a lot of times buyer's agents get really hung up on that, and they don't know how to explain that very well. And I think that's something that we need to really be careful about, because, you know, just because someone's getting a loan and just because they need closing costs doesn't mean that they can't pay for it or they can't qualify. And I think that we need to educate sellers enough to know, so they know that that's not necessarily the case. Home warranty, I always put the home warranty on there and just tell them, listen, I'm going to put it on here. If they ask for it, great. If they don't ask for it, then that's another extra $500 in your pocket. I guess the point is that I'm making is that when I do this and I sit down with a seller, I am giving them the best and worst case scenarios. If you get a for sale by, or if you get a full price offer at $416 and they ask for these things, you're going to net $12,000. If they don't ask for these things, we'll add back in those concessions that, you know, you aren't going to pay. I don't really understand how people can list homes for people and not know any of this information or help them with this, because if you're not asking, I'm not really sure how you would know what they owe on the home, or, you know, what they're willing to take. Sorry, my alarm's going off. That's for us. Sorry, that was for us to go back out and come back in. Anyway, so I don't want to go on too much about it, but to me, this is probably one of the most important pieces of information that the seller gets from an agent. And so if you're ahead of the others and you're doing this, you're already leaps and bounds ahead of other agents, because a lot of them honestly don't do it. Okay, so hopefully we're doing good. I'm going to go in briefly, just really quick, to talk about the other types of ways that you can reach out to get listings. I know a lot of people pay for leads and stuff like that. And you know what? If that works for you, that's great. I've always kind of felt like if I was going to spend $600 or $700 a month to get leads to come in for me, that I'm hoping somebody will give me a decent lead, I would rather take $600 or $700, and I would take that money and go out and just use it as marketing to, you know, expireds and for sale by owners and things like that. So let's talk about expireds really quickly. So the expired listing report that is similar to what I pulled up earlier when I was saying that, you know, if you go back, I would, you know, if you want to put things that were on there 6 months ago, you can. In my opinion, if it expired in the last 30 to 45 days, they're probably more, they're probably better off to list with you than somebody 6 months ago that took it off the market, if that makes any sense. Not to say that I wouldn't work with those people, but again, with you, if you're going to pull up a list of homes, this was everything that expired in the last 15 days as of March 21st. So that shows you that not always is everything selling out there. So I know when people say, well, you know, the market's kind of tough because it's, you know, there's just limited amount of homes for sale. That may be true, but if they're expiring, obviously sometimes maybe it's because they didn't get out of them what they needed to get out of them to pay off their mortgage, or, you know, maybe they just were testing the market. I'm not sure. But there are plenty of for sale by owners, and there's plenty of expired listings out there that you can go after that are right there. And the one thing I like about expireds is that I already know that at one time they were willing to list their home. They were willing to pay the brokerage fee. So that hurdle with for sale by owner versus expired, you just have to figure out what was the reason that their home didn't sell. So when you do a little bit of research and you find out exactly what's happened, and maybe you can see on the MLS different things that maybe were done wrong, you have a way to talk with these people. So just make sure, again, that if you're going into these expired listings, click on the history or click on the tax ID number and make sure that they have not relisted or that they activated it again, because a lot of times that is the case. So when you're looking at these, this is what you're going to see when you're looking at their activity report. Again, you want to see the dates changed. Make sure that you're looking at it to see if it was withdrawn, and if it was withdrawn, what date that was versus what date it is that it expired. Notice of default. So probably, I hope not, but probably with people being off work with the whole coronavirus and everything going on, we may see in 3 to 4 months from now, you may see people that are losing their homes. They're going to lose them because they couldn't make their payment. They were off work for whatever reason, whether it was companies just shut down or they sent them home and they didn't get a paycheck. But the counties typically will release a notice of default list. It normally is every 30 days. Sometimes it's different depending on the counties. This is just one that I did for Weber County that I had asked the title company for, and she sent it over to me. The one thing I like about these is that basically these are notice of defaults. These are going into foreclosure. They're not there yet, but it will tell you who the owner is, what their mailing address is if it's different than the actual property address. So that's good to know. These are great leads that you guys can talk to, because if they're not completely into foreclosure and they're still at the point where they can maybe do a short sale, which is a whole nother animal, but if these are people that need help. And so I suggest that empathy is the best way to get through to people, is to really show that you do care, and it's not just you're trying to get a listing. Because sometimes people just get into situations, we all know, that you don't know what their situation is. You don't know why they might be losing their home. You don't know if there was a death. You don't know if there was, you know, medical issues or things like that. The one thing I do know is that when I've worked with people that were in notice of default and they were going into foreclosure, is they appreciate that somebody's not looking down on them. And I think that's really important, that we always show that we care more than just about business. Because if these people are possibly going to lose their home, what's to say that they're not going to rebuy another home one day, or they're not going to refer people to you because of what you've put into the work that you've done for them. And so there's so many avenues that you can go about getting listings. And I think a lot of times we get really stuck with driving by, seeing a for sale by owner sign. And that's kind of what we think about. Garage sales. I got to tell you that my husband is my biggest advocate. So whenever we stop somewhere, if we go to a garage sale, if we're in the grocery store, we go to Lucky Slice Pizza, where it happens to be, I don't like to put myself out there because I don't want to feel pushy, but he seems to always just talk to everyone. And we have been to so many garage sales that when we walk up, the first thing he said, "Hey, you guys having a garage sale? Are you moving?" You would be surprised how many people say, "Yeah, we're getting ready to, we're going to, list our home. We're thinking about buying another one, or we've got one we're building," or whatever. Perfect opportunity to walk around, introduce yourself face to face. It's non-threatening. Hand them your card and talk to them and say, "Hey, if I can help you with anything." The one thing people forget about is, even if there's a sign in their yard and they already have it listed by somebody, but they're moving, maybe they're not buying a home through that agent. Maybe they don't even, they haven't even looked yet. It's a good opportunity to get a buyer as well. So the more you talk to people, the more that they know you're in the business, the better you're going to do. And that's really hard for us sometimes because we don't want people to think we're being pushy. But I found that just making that nice conversation with people, it seems to really, really make such a difference. And so people think I'm kind of weird sometimes because I do a lot of jackets and sweaters and name badges where I embroider onto my jackets and my shirts, my company logo. You would be surprised how many people will strike up a conversation about that just because they see that on you. So, I'm kind of my own walking billboard, I guess you would say. Anyway, take advantage of those because you would be surprised how many people are actually getting ready to sell and haven't even talked with anybody yet. Just they're trying to get rid of all their junk first. The other avenue is apartment buildings. So we know that they always have no soliciting on these buildings, and that they basically just say, "Hey, you know what? Don't solicit here, don't drop off anything here." But that doesn't mean that you can't call a title company, give them the address or property of the building, and then ask them for 100 or 200 addresses within that building or that area. And you can send out mailers to them. You can send out invites to them to maybe come to a buyer seminar or something like that. So as we all know, rent has just gone crazy, and it's more than most house payments now. Well, kind of. This generation that we've got that's living in these apartments, a lot of them are millennials. And I know that we all have our thoughts about millennials and what, they're going to buy homes, and they buy homes from people they like, that pay attention to them and give them credit. And so I found with my kids, sorry, somebody want to say something? I found that with even my kids, that talking with their friends, they're not against buying a home. They just don't know anything about it. And they don't want to reach out. They want somebody to reach out to them. And so when you start educating them, you will find that you'll have some good buyers that surprisingly saving up their money, or they're paying for rent that, is extraordinary. And so I would definitely solicit these type of things even by mail if you need to. So does everybody want to stop for a little break, or we want to continue?
What do you want to do, Cindy?
Well, if everybody needs a little break, we can just stop for, come back in a couple of minutes or whatever.
I think
we're good. Is
Keep
everybody
going.
good?
Okay. All right.
If you look, people are texting. They say, "I'm good either way. I'm good either way."
I know, and I'm not seeing that. I don't see that part. So I hope that you guys are at least seeing that to respond to them.
Yeah. Sean Monson said he's good. Phyllis
Yeah,
Pointer
yep.
says keep going. So
Okay, one thing that I do want to bring to everybody's attention, if your name is not on your screen, I may not catch who's on here. We're taking a roll on everyone who attended, because everybody who attends the training classes online will get 5 tickets for the listing competition. So be sure that your name is showing up. I've got somebody on here that just looks like a bunch of gibberish with no video going on. says ABFD. I don't know who.
Michelle, I think that's Bill, and Heather and I are both here.
Okay.
I got that. I got that, Jeff.
Okay, I got somebody that says iPhone. I can see you, but I can't see what your name is. Sorry. So if you got iPhone under your picture,
Michelle, the gibberish is mine, but the managers don't count for the contest
Oh.
anyway.
right.
I see your gibberish. I see. Yeah. Okay. You know, you can rename yourself, Jeff.
Yeah, and definitely put your last name as well. I've got a Steve and a Brad, but we've got several Steves and Brads, so we need to.
Which Steve and which Brad are you?
We want to give you credit, but we can't do that if your name's not on there and you're not popping up in your video feed either. So we can't see who you are.
The good thing is we just have one Cindy spelled CYNDI, right?
That's right. But I don't get it. I'm not in on that. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, managers don't count.
You do count now, come on.
Oh, there's one on here.
For this,
There's one
yes.
on here that just says iPhone.
We're just chopped liver.
Yeah, we're chopped liver. There's one on here that just says iPhone.
Yeah, who is that?
That's Catherine Fales, and I thought I put in my name, but it doesn't show up there.
Okay, Catherine, I just want to make sure that I get you in here on the list to get you tickets, okay?
We want to make sure everybody gets credit. So
Thank
Well,
you.
and also I want to say something else too, and that is that I know that a lot of people are going on listing appointments and presentations and doing things like that, and you need to make sure that you let us know that too, so that we can put you in, or attending other trainings and things like that. So.
Cindy, if you
I
check,
think what I'm going to do is try to, by the end of the week, I will email everybody from my office and say, please email me back and tell me, if you've been on a listing appointment, name out each thing so that I can put the tickets in for them.
Yeah.
Okay, so are we good to go?
Yep.
Is it going okay so far? I don't
Yeah.
like this.
Cindy, I know it takes out the human element, which is a little difficult when you love teaching and you love people interacting and whatnot.
Yes, I
But
do.
You are doing awesome. Totally awesome.
Well, when you're in a classroom full of people, you can look at body language and you can look at, you can tell if they're
Exactly.
getting through or they're not liking it or whatever. On this, I'm just like, okay, here I go.
hey,
So,
Cindy, if you click the chat button at the bottom, you'll be able to see people's messages.
click the what?
Put your cursor on the bottom, Cindy, and you'll see a chat icon.
Mhm.
Click on that and it'll bring up a chat box and you'll see everybody's messages.
Okay. I
And
don't.
also should be able to see the pictures of everybody who actually has a video feed.
Oh, I see. Okay, I see that. Oh, April said you're doing great. Oh, how nice. You guys are awesome. You're making me feel so much better about this. Okay. So my husband warned me before I did this because he's a big YouTuber and trying to do some stuff himself. And he said, don't look away. Don't look away. If you look away a lot, people are just going to get off of there because we don't like that. So I'm trying not to look away to look at my little pop-ups and stuff like that for chats. But
You're
okay,
fine.
so to keep going then. So I know that we've talked about who am I? And we've talked about doing biographies. And I know that that is probably one of the very hardest things that I've had to do. It's funny because as people, we brag about ourselves, but we don't want to talk about ourselves and who we really are when we have to put it in words. And so I had a really tough time with this. And I'll be really honest, I've only done a biography once before. And that was probably, 20 years ago when I ran for city council and I was running for board of directors and I had to put something together. And so when I came here and they asked me for a biography, I thought, okay, we're going to do this. And some of the agents had mentioned to me that they didn't even know where to start. And so I thought, oh my gosh, I don't blame them. I don't know where to start. I decided to just start writing about the things I liked and the things I believed in. I have a mission statement that I had wrote a long time ago for myself. And I still have it and I still use it. And so I decided that those were the things that were important to me that I wanted people to know about me. Some people really like the idea of awards and things like that. And I think that's great. I think that there's a place for everything. However, in our industry, we understand you know, when we're in the $4 million club or those kind of things, but the general public doesn't understand that. And what I found is we used to do, you know, this is going to show you how dated I am in the business, but, you know, back when I was first in the business, man, you had to apply for, you know, your, you had to go to the board, you had to apply for your award, you had to show all of your transactions, all those kind of things just to try to get an award. And then if you wanted a certain type of award, you had to nominate yourself. And so it's changed a lot. But we used to put those in the newspaper, and, you know, whatever you would have from your office, you would get the acknowledgement from. And I think that that is important. I think that it's a good way to work for goals. But I think the general public, when they look at us, they go, 4 million. They don't understand that that doesn't mean $4 million. So you can do it however you want. Just make sure that whenever people are reading it, that they're going to see it for what it is. Mine, and anybody that knows me, some of you are getting to know me, but somebody says, is someone doing dishes?
Can you put your mute button on, please? We're hearing all your traffic.
Okay. Mine says mute all, but somebody might have unmuted themselves. So hopefully now we're muted. Anyway, so people that know me, I've always been smiley. I've always tried to be really happy. The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. So think happy, be happy. That really, I try to live by that. I think that's really important. And it's not easy to do that all the time, especially when we get in tough economies or, you know, we have things going on at home. And I'm only going to put this up for a second. It's not for you guys to read all about me. I just wanted to point out a few things that when I was doing this and doing my own biography, it basically said, start out and talk about who you are and where you are right now. And then from there, talk about where you've been, and then talk about who you are. And so that's kind of where I got this layout from. You guys are welcome to look at it if you want. It should be on the website. I know that Bruce had been working on them and putting them on there. But I try really hard, even when I'm working with people in general, I try to just be who I am. I don't put on a big show. I don't try to be somebody I'm not. You know, if I don't want to wear a dress clothes to an appointment, and I wear my jeans and a nice shirt, I'm okay with that. I guess it depends on where you're going, who you're meeting with, and things like that. But I think that when you try to look and be something you're not, it shows through. And I think that's really important, that people know who you are and what you stand for. And that's why I did this, and I've started adding it to all of my sites and even the MLS and things like that. But most of all, I wanted people to know who I am and know that, you know, at the very end of mine, it says, and remember, if you see someone without a smile, give them one of yours. That's who I am. And I realize not everybody has that personality, and that's great because we don't all want to be the same. But I think it's important, if you don't have one of these, you probably should work on it. I think that social media nowadays, they're looking for everything. And I think that the sellers and the buyers, mostly sellers, in my opinion, are looking up to see what you have on your social media, if it's public, and things like that. So I think that's really important to do that. People are saying that it sounds like people need to be muted. So if you are doing stuff, will you mute your phones or computers, please? Okay. So with that being said, how do we write the perfect real estate ads? I think that this is a big, big deal. So when you actually go out and you get your listing, this is just going to be covered on here. And of course, like I said, in my next classes that I do, there'll be a continuance of this one, and we will talk about, we'll get on the phone and we'll make phone calls, and who do you talk to? What do you say? How do you get that appointment with the for sale by owners and things like that? But for now, since we're all kind of remote, I'm going to skip to this first. So when you're writing your ads for your properties, be really careful of what you say and how you explain things. The best thing I can tell you is describe the property and not the people, and you'll always be okay. So this next slide that I have here, you can see the agent description that I have at the top. That's the agent description that I took from the for sale by owner that we went through and did the CMA on. That was the agent's description of the home. The one below it is the homeowner's description of the home that they have on KSL. And so just to give you an idea, if you look at this, you can see clearly that what the agent put on there is much smaller and not quite so in depth as what the homeowner did. I love what the homeowner does because they have something in this. This is their baby. They love it. It's their home, and everybody should love their home because they love their home. What I like about this is they're telling you all the things about the home that they think are really important. And that's what they are focusing on. Is that necessarily what the buyer's going to focus on? Not always. But most of the time when you're talking to people, I will get you the training dates. It'll be every Tuesday at 10:30 to 12:30. So usually it will be after you guys' meetings if you're having them on Tuesdays. So, but yes, I will get them sent out. Sorry, I'm just looking at messages and stuff. So Jamie, yes, I will get those sent to you guys. And as soon as we can go back to not being social distancing, I will hold them in the office so that you guys can come in and we can actually sit down, go over contracts and be able to write them. And you guys can ask questions because I think that's really important. That's kind of why I didn't go into the contracts today because I just think that that's something that needs to be done where we can do one-on-one, sit in a group or something like that. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out. So you can see at the top one that, you know, beautiful home, well taken care of, new carpet in the front room, living room, refinished hardwood floors. You know, it's got some of the things in there that the seller found important. But the most important thing to the seller, if you read through here, is, you know, they got surround sound and they've got insulated ceilings and walls and they've got a deep garage and, you know, they just got all these things that they are really proud of that they did to this home because they're the original owner of this home. The drain around the foundation, that's important. So if it includes the pool table and it includes the appliances and upgraded windows and all those kind of things, when you read this ahead of time, my point is that you know something way more about that home than what you would have even reading off of the MLS. So if this was an expired listing and they hadn't put this information on there, take a drive by, take a look at the house before you even go meet with these people. So when you're talking about the description and you're coming up with something, I will send this out so that everyone has it, and I'll just have probably just have Georgia forward it to everybody, but so that you can have some notes, or you're welcome to, we can print it out, whatever we need to do. But what do you want to do to make the reader do a double take? Your headline is going to be the one thing that sticks out. So this one says, for instance, are you kidding me? 12 acres of wooded land for how much? And they've got the capitalizations and everything. Be different. That's all it means. Make sure that it's really catchy. The opening statement is get right to the point so that the buyer's looking at it saying, what am I looking at? So, you know, this is an example. You'll have the stunning 3-story home located 2 blocks from McNally Elementary in downtown Preston, you know, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, those are just some ideas for you to get to say, how do I go through each one? When you're doing a narrative, the description of the features and everything, obviously a lot of the things are on the MLS, but not everybody knows how to read an MLS sheet. And so if, for instance,
$7 to fly round trip to Cleveland right now. Oh, sorry, guys.
So I guess the point is that I'm making is that put what's not obvious on there. So if your buyer is to look at this, somebody's looking at this from a sheet that the agent has printed out for them, a client report, we hope, because I don't know if everybody knows this or not, but whenever you, if you print out a listing that somebody else is listing or you're listing, you can never give out a full report ever to a client. It's huge and you'll get fined, and it's a nightmare. And they just had something come up about that in this past year, that they talked about that. So just an FYI, anyone that is printing off MLS sheets, the full report that includes the agent information and the brokerage information and the 3%, 2%, whatever it happens to be for the buyer's agent on there, you cannot have those in a flyer box, and you can't have them in the home, even if it's your listing. You can only print out the client full report. So I don't know if anybody didn't know that, but now you do. So basically, whatever you want to put on here, describe the property, but do not describe people. Don't describe, well, we'll get to that. So if your goal is to sell your listing fast, you can do promotions. You can offer small discounts from the sales price for a limited time for certain things, or they'll include this or they'll include that, 100% of the buyer's closing costs for a limited time. You can do all those kind of things, you know, of course, as long as your seller has agreed to do that, you can do special promotions. Get with your broker before you offer anything, because they have to approve that, even if there's just different stipulations and things. So you can convey a sense of urgency, but you can't try to panic people. So be really careful of what you put in there. So basically, you know, this house is still available, so act now. While you're still reading this, call now. Those are the kind of things you can put on there to get that urgency. You just can't try to put things on there that are going to make people panic. Let's go to the next one. Fair housing, big deal. So if you read through this, you can see this was an example that I got from the NAR. You can see how many potential violations of the U.S. Fair Housing Act can you spot in the advertisement. 2-bedroom, executive home, exclusive neighborhood, walking distance to a church, active adult, perfect environment, empty nesters, quiet, private neighborhood. So I see a lot of people do these ads and they put them on their MLS and stuff with a lot of this wording. Be very careful, because what they don't want is for people to think that if you're not an active adult, you can't live there. If you're saying it's the perfect environment, it may not be the perfect environment for everybody. People are always looking for reasons to, you know, come after people, and just got to be really careful. Empty nesters, you know, you cannot target a certain group of people just because you think they might like that area. So private neighborhoods, things like that, just be very careful. And if you're not sure what to use, they have a list, so you can always pull it up. The NAR always has information, but they also have it on the MLS. If you're not sure on verbiage or words that you can and can't use, they actually have it on there that you can click, and it will tell you certain words that you can't use. Again, describe the property, not the people. If you write your ad so good, this could happen, but I doubt it. I just thought it was funny. Did you sell your house yet? No. After reading the real estate agent's description of it, we decided it was just the place we were looking for. I thought that was fun. So if you can make your sellers think they want to stay, then you're probably doing a really good job writing your ads. Okay, so really quickly, I want to go on to the iPro Realty Library. So with me being new, I'm still learning all of the ins and outs and all the different sites and everything, which honestly, there's just so much information that you shouldn't have to look anywhere else to find it. The problem is when you're new, you probably don't know where to find it, and we want to hopefully walk everybody through that. So I went to the iPro library, and I found that if you go in there, a lot of your links are underneath that. So if you wanted to go to any of the SkySlope or the back office, any of that kind of stuff, it's actually right there. So if you don't want to have to go through different links, oh, whoops, sorry. That's a good place to go. But the iPro Realty Library has amazing stuff. And so I got the little arrow over here on the side. And so since we're working with sellers, I wanted you to see that that's where you would go. But I mean, you can do tons of training, but I would go through these. And if you don't know them, if you need forms for marketing, or you need them for buyers or sellers or logos or anything, this is where you will go, because there's just amazing information in here. I love this. Don't reinvent the wheel like I did for so many years, where I had to just keep on making my own stuff. It took away so much time away from my production, and it actually honestly just burned me out. Okay, so the next page, if you go into the working with sellers and go down to the listing appointment graphics version, there's all different versions that you can get, but you've got seller handouts. Everything in here is available to you guys to use. So I would suggest that if you're going to put together a presentation, and I will have a presentation actually put together in one of these classes when we're doing it, and I will show you how I go through that. the one thing I love so much about these presentations like this, for one, they're already done. And for two, is that it's a great way for you to have a cheat sheet in front of you to stay on task when your sellers are asking questions and sometimes you get off a little bit. This helps a lot for information that you need. And so I highly suggest that you go to this site and just see if if you can see anything in there you can use. If you can't see it, I know that Bruce, I believe, is the one that's been working, that does a lot of this stuff, and maybe I'm wrong, but he's amazing. He's done great things in here. If I'm not giving the right credit to somebody, sorry.
You're correct. It is. It's true.
Okay, I thought so. And so if there's something you need, or there's some of them in here that you can actually go in and you can do your own personalized pages too. So they're set up and then you can just personalize them however you want. If you don't have a presentation put together, either so you can go through it on your computer in front of people, or you have it so it's in a binder, I highly suggest you get one put together. If you don't know what to put in there, or you're not sure where to start, and we haven't got to that class yet, call me or come in and I will sit down with you and give you an idea, because I have some put together already that I use that will help you substantially. And once they're put together, then you have it. So, of course, knowledge is power. We all know that, right? So the more that you can learn, the more that you can get into these websites and things, I suggest that you really make sure before you go on a listing appointment, before you even start making those phone calls, seriously, know what you're talking about. And to do that, you have to do a little bit of research. And if you don't know, definitely ask someone. And over the past 15 years that I had my office and I had agents working for me, that was the one thing I really prided myself in. It was the fact that if they didn't know, they could come to me and ask me. And I know that the brokers that are with our company now are awesome, because I've talked with all of them, and it seems like all the agents feel the same way. There's a lot of newer agents coming on, and welcome. We're glad they're coming. If you get overwhelmed, if you get on the sites, even on SkySlope or any of those, and you don't understand where certain things go or where to digit-sign, get the signatures and stuff like that, please ask, because it is a little bit overwhelming, I'll admit, because I'm just learning all this now. But compared to what I've seen with other companies and even my company, iPro offers so much information, and there's so much already put in there for you guys that, like I said, don't reinvent the wheel, because it takes up too much time. So with that being said, it is 12 o'clock. It's almost 12 o'clock. Do you want to do question and answers? Hopefully answers. Does anybody have questions they want to ask? Comments? Let me unmute everybody. Okay. Anybody have any questions?
I don't. Thank you for all the info.
You're
It's a lot,
welcome.
and it is overwhelming, but
It is a lot of information, and I'm hoping, my hope is that it gives you some ideas to go, hey, that was cool, I want to look into that. Or
absolutely.
Not everything that I do is going to work for everybody else, but these are the things that no one ever told me. I just had to kind of learn. And when we talk about baptism by fire, I mean, that's kind of how I had to learn, and sometimes that's good. But I think it is overwhelming. And I think in this market, the way that it's been, it is a little tougher to get listings because so many people are going after them. I've always said that you don't have to be a lot different. You just have to be a little bit different. You just have to have something a little bit different than what everybody else does. And that's why I think that the net sheets and explaining to people and going through their home, just being a friend, instead of going after the listing just to get the listing, is really important. So, and I've got some things that I can talk about as far as if you wanted to start making calls or trying to get a hold of people now. If you want me to continue for a little bit, I will do that. But I'd rather kind of answer questions first if anybody has questions.
I will say, just off topic, I have to leave here at about 12:30 to go to my son's school and get all the homeschooling things. So I may dip out.
That's okay. We'll be done before then. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's actually, we'll be shortening it a bit. I didn't know we were going to be able to keep going. I thought we were going to have about a 10-minute break in between to try to get reconnected on here again. So that actually worked out really good. So.
Perfect.
And yeah, if anybody has questions later or there's things that you want, I'll get copies of everything that you need. I didn't want to send everything because not everybody wants everything that's on here. So if there's certain certain things you want, I can send them out to you. Just, shoot me an email and I can send
That
them.
spreadsheet was really great.
Yeah, Cindy, I just want to reiterate something that you brought up. I'm glad that you brought up even a screenshot of the iPro library. If you haven't gone in and clicked on every tab in that library to find out all of the tools that are in there, then you need to do that. It really is filled with things that they're not just there just to be there. They're there to help you to do your business. And like Cindy said, we all have different tastes. We all have different personalities. So what you do, the reason that everything is loaded in there by pages is so you can select all of the individual pages that kind of fit your style, and you can put together your own presentations, or even just for the information. It's phenomenal. And so I would exhort all of you to go in and click on every tab in the library and become familiar with it, because that is that's a wealth of knowledge and information to help you with your business.
Thank you, Cindy. You did a fantastic job.
Thanks. I hope everybody's doing well. And I know that it's kind of tough times with, the coronavirus and everything. It's kind of throwing us all for a loop. I mean, it threw me for a loop. And then, of course, the earthquake that threw me for a loop too. But, I think, just my opinion, I've been doing this for 21 years. I've seen way worse things happen as far as, I'm not saying that it's not an important thing, the coronavirus. I'm not talking about it. I'm talking about with our market.
We saw interest rates at 18%.
yeah, exactly. And then, I remember days when, you really had to search to get listings, and then they sat there for 5 or 6 months before you hopefully got, an offer. So I really don't foresee that coming. I think that things will get back to, somewhat of a normal thing again. And I think hopefully by summer at the latest, we're really going to be hopping again. And, you just never know. I do know this, that you can't base everything off of fear, like they say, the only thing to fear is fear itself, right? And I think that we got to be careful not to pass that on to our clients. I think that's the most major thing right now that we need to really be discussing with people.
That's exactly right. We actually need to be, motivators and shining lights to explain things. I've had now 2 or 3 agents that have called me that people had concerns going and seeing homes. Go on. We've had things that have been sent to us from NAR, suggestions on how to do open houses, or whether you have to do open houses or not. You don't, but everybody has to do what they feel comfortable with. But however you do it as a realtor, try to be a shining light to your clients. Don't be a doomsdayer. Like Cindy said.
They get enough of that.
No, we've seen lots of worse things happen in the real estate market, and so this is a little bit different how we have to conduct our business, but that's okay. We'll get through it, and we'll be better because of it. So.
Remember, there are a lot of agents who have just shut down. They're not doing anything because they don't know how to get out in front of people and to continue to communicate. And so now's the time to be connecting with your sphere of influence. Now's the time to be encouraging people to be positive and figure out a way that you can serve your sphere of influence, and just be, look for the future of things. A lot of us that are on this call, we went through the last recession. We went through some horrific times, and I can tell you great stories that are way beyond what you guys dealt with, because I was in a whole different part of the country. And things will get better. We have to look at it positively. So if we can be that a good, that emotional boost that somebody needs, even if just calling up your sphere and letting them know that you care about them and to see how they're doing and give them some good encouragement. My goodness, the interest rates are down right now. Have you thought about refinancing your house so you can get through the next few months because you've got a lot of equity in your home? Lots of things that we can be doing as touch points with our sphere of influence and be the person that stays in front of them. There's a lot of agents that are just sitting around twiddling their thumbs, wondering if the world has ended, and they're just biding their time. So
not only that, Michelle, you brought up a good point. Now is a good time. You know what? I have, in the last few days, read a few real estate articles that I haven't had time to do for a long time.
Yeah.
And so let's take advantage of the time that we have here at being home, in investing in ourselves and becoming better realtors, becoming better servants to the people that we serve. And so I find it kind of a nice little bit of a relaxing time that we can actually focus on ourselves a little more. And what a blessing technology is, isn't it?
Oh,
You
yeah.
guys, when I got into
Amazing.
real estate, this would have never happened. Okay. This would have never happened.
Yeah, if we had had this type of ability, this technology 10, 15 years ago, it would have been phenomenal for all of us.
It would have.
Changer.
Yeah.
So we have tools available to us.
Always look for the good in every situation that happens. There is good. Always there is. Okay.
Yes. And there's a silver lining, trust me. I'm going to be teaching a class this week on setting up your systems. Now's a good time to be really digging into your business, getting it reset where you're ready for the big influx of people once things get going again.
And next week I'm going to be teaching a couple of classes on technology. So we're going to work on mobility RE. We're going to work on what used to be called Circle Picks. No longer is it called Circle Picks. It's now called
Core listing machine.
Core listing. Thank you. I can never remember what it is. But anyway, so those of you that don't know the benefits of using those programs, please jump on next week because I'm telling you, they are programs that will help you to get more business and help you to do better things for the business that you have. So we've got lots of great things happening at iPro. We're excited as brokers to be able to have webinars like this. Cindy, you are awesome. Absolutely awesome. We're so glad that you have joined iPro. Let's everybody give Cindy a big round of applause. Yay!
Oh,
Yes, thank you for your time.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
You know what? Honestly, I think that it comes down to two things, right? We can talk about it all day long and we can say, oh, that's cool. And we can go to all these things or whatever, but it's just taking that first step and doing it. And that's really hard sometimes, we all have the idea that we want to do that. But you know what, you just have to move forward and do it. Until you ask people, you're never gonna know. And so, just move forward with it. Ask for referrals, just like they were saying. I have called around in the past week to past clients, and I never talked about real estate with them at all. I basically just said, you know what, I want to check on you. Is there anything you need from me? Just know I'm here for you. And they were like, gosh, thanks for checking in. That was awesome. And you know what? I did it because I really do care and I would be there for them. But that's the step that comes back. Follow it up with a card, send out just a little note card and just say, it's so nice talking to you the other day. That's a good time to say, hey, by the way, this is Brian Buffini. By the way, I'm never too busy for your referrals. Do you know anybody that might be, looking to buy or sell? I think the problem with most people in every industry is they don't ask. And so it's kind of our own fault when somebody buys a house or sells a house without us. It's probably because we didn't get involved enough to ask. So.
And I lob out a softball too on what's been really cranking my business in this last week. Just because I actually partnered with one of the home inspectors in Salt Lake, And I have contacted every one of my clients since the earthquake and said, I'm offering a free structural inspection on your property just to make sure everything's good. How are you feeling? Would you like a free structural inspection? I'm just checking on you. I just want to make sure everything's, you're doing good. Your home's good. I want you to feel safe in your property at this time. And that has been remarkable. So.
What a great idea, Carolyn. That's a great idea.
And what a way to serve. And that's really the key, is how
Yeah.
can you serve your
I'm here to serve you. And that's been my message, is I'm here to serve you and I want you to feel safe. I'm here to serve you and I want you to feel safe.
Is that Carolyn talking?
Yeah.
It is.
Okay, I know, because I seen her Facebook post, and you know what? I watched her video and it was awesome. So
Did you notice I put curtains up after that? I looked like I was in prison in that video.
I thought it was great. You did a good job.
But for realtors, because we are people persons, it's so difficult when you are in front of a camera and you don't have anybody responding back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who likes a little video?
I'm using it. I like feel a whole bunch of certain ways about that. It was alive, so it was terrifying.
Oh yeah, you do one thing wrong,
But I
you
just
can't change
decided
it.
to let it ride. I let it ride. I'm not deleting it, and I'm actually following up with all of my people and just saying, I'm checking. I want you to feel safe, and I'm here to serve you. I want you to feel safe, and I'm here to serve you. So
That's
if
awesome.
anybody wants, I'm going to use all my stuff. I share everything, but it's been good for me.
Mhm.
I've been getting like homemade breads and stuff on my porch. It's just been really good for me. I'm actually doing better than I have in probably 3 years. So I love everybody's lockdown.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. I've got to run to another appointment, but real quickly, I just wanted to say thank you to every one of you for taking time to be on this call. Thank you, Carolyn, for that great idea. And thank you, Cindy, for doing a great job on this. I think it's very important that we all stay connected during this time. And that I look at this, that we are to be the voice of reason and the calming force amongst the storm here. And I think we can do that. And by reaching out to our clients is a good way. It's an excellent way right now to get your CRMs in order, updated, or even get one put together if you don't have one, of a way to keep in touch with clients. And really, as Cindy said, you're not calling to try to get them to list their house or whatever. You're just calling to check in on them and let people know that you really do care, because we do care about our clients. We care about each one of you who are in our company, in our real estate family. And I know that you'll care the same about your clients and the people that you work with. And very important to stay close to them and to share your concerns and help in any way that you can. And at the same time, be careful, be safe yourselves. Practicing social distancing is important. Our offices are still open to everyone, and agents are using them, even though our staff is working remotely. And we found that many of the agents, that they're still coming into the office, using the equipment, doing what they need to do, meeting clients in the conference rooms, but they are practicing social distancing in the office so that they can be as safe as possible as well, because you never know with this. But just be careful. If you have Clorox, I put those Clorox wipes or whatever in my car, and even when I go to the gas station now, I wipe down the gas pump, even the little digits to put in my code or whatever, I wipe those all down. And I would do the same, and do the same at the office when you are there as well. So, but anyway, thank you all for being here. Thanks for being part of our iPro Real Estate family. We love
Thanks
you.
for joining me. I'm impressed with all the people that showed up.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the week.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Bill.
We'll talk to you soon. I've got
We
a,
love and
Thanks, Bill.
appreciate
Have a
you,
great
Bill.
day.
thank you. I've got a voice message that's going to go out either tonight or tomorrow to every one of you, to your cell phones, to your voicemail. And anyway, I just want to express my love and thanks for every one of you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Love you.
Everyone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bye, guys. Have a good
Bye.
day.
Bye. Thanks, Cindy.
You're welcome. Oh, now I can see everyone.
Hi, Shar.
Bummer. I didn't get to see everyone before.
How do we do this next time?
Yeah, I like this
Hi,
better.
Carolyn.
Hi, Don. Let's do the Brady Bunch thing screen next time. How do we
Yeah,
do
right.
that? Great. Cindy. Thanks, Don.
Hey,
Love you
Jen,
guys.
Heather, hello.
Hey, here we are.
That was fun. Bye, guys. Have a good
Bye-bye,
day.
Cindy. Have a great day.
You
I
too.
just turn on for quick.